It's Andrew Rickson here. I'm the convener of the Story Conference running in November 23rd to 25 this year. We're joined with Dr. Tom Verghese, who's running a half-day pre-conference workshop on how does your culture influence your story. So Tom, your workshop is exploring the question of how your culture influences your story. How has your culture influenced your own story?
Well, firstly, I'm really pleased to be part of the conference, Andrew, and thank you for giving me this opportunity to expand a little bit about the workshop. So the story about how does my own culture influence my story? Well, I'm of Indian ethnicity, born and brought up in Malaysia, and I came out here to Australia as a student about 35 years ago. And my first actually 15 years was spent in the sales and marketing industry. And then we had a recession in 1990 here. You probably were too young to remember that.
Thanks, Tom.
This was the recession we needed to have. And I found myself between opportunities. And, it was quite a challenging 12 months, let me tell you. But one of the things I did during that time was actually a personal inventory. One of those self-assessment tools to actually find out what's important for you. Mm-hmm. And what really came up very strongly was the fact that one of my core values was around teaching, training, and consulting. And so hence I then decided to do a career move and went down that path. Now, both my parents were teachers. My grandfather was a teacher. And so, I'm third generation actually in this. And so that for me is an example of how my culture has influenced my life because, I feel now very consistent and congruent with it. And teaching was one of those things when I was growing up, I said, I'll never be a teacher. I never want to go into teaching. But hey, that's what I've been doing now for the last 24 years.
Awesome. So your area of expertise is cultural intelligence. Could you share more about what this is and why is it important?
Sure. So cultural intelligence is defined as the ability to interact effectively with people of different cultures. Mm-hmm. And there are four key components of cultural intelligence. One is what we call drive, which is your motivation to interact with people who are from different cultures. Mm-hmm. The second component is knowledge. That is, how much information, knowledge do you have about people from different cultures? And of course, that then feeds into your strategy, which is what plans do I have in ensuring that I have an effective interaction? Yeah. And the fourth bit, which is where the rubber meets the road, is your skill set. How do you, in fact, actually do that? So those are the four components of cultural intelligence. Now, why is that important? Well, I think that's a moot question, really. The mere fact that we are holding a story conference just demonstrates that we're going to have people here in Australia, 28% of the Australian population were born overseas. 40% have at least one parent born overseas. So we are constantly interacting in our own workplace with people of different cultures. More importantly than that, globalization has flattened the world. So we are now interacting with more and more people from across the planet in terms of our suppliers, in terms of our customers, in terms of our clients, in terms of our products and services. And as we now have the opportunity to reach out to other clients from outside our own countries, and at the same time, we have, in fact, more competition today.
Yeah.
So I think, that's why cultural intelligence is important. I think it's a very critical part of being an effective leader and consultant.
Yep. So can you share a particular example of an individual or organization who's benefited from working with you on their cultural story or cultural intelligence?
Sure. Let me give you two specific examples. One is actually an Australian leader who was promoted to a senior position in Malaysia. She is a very high performing leader here, and this was a stretch assignment for her. And she was obviously very excited, had a big agenda, a change agenda to actually implement in Malaysia. It was a joint venture with another bank over there. And what she found was when she went over there in the first 6 months, all her methodology that she had been successful with here wasn't really cutting the mustard over there.
Mm-hmm.
And so therefore, she then engaged us in a series of coaching, interventions, observations, over a period of 12 months, which then had her become really far more successful in getting, her job done. And in fact, she became promoted, and she is currently now one of the most senior people in that particular bank. So not only is she, in terms of gender differences, but also cultural differences, she's an Anglo, in a Malaysian kind of context. So that's one.
Great example.
Yeah. Another example that we are currently working with now is actually an Asian lawyer who is a partner here in Australia. And the CEO recommended that he should get some work done, some coaching done, because although he's been here for many years, he's as a salaried partner, for him to move up to the next rank in the law firm, which is to be an equity partner, required him to actually be able to generate revenue in Australia, be able to network, be able to do business development. I call that in a soft manner within the law firm, and this is part of the work that we're doing with him. Is how do you actually, because the style of doing business and generating revenue in Australia is quite different to where he came from.
Right. Right.
So, that's another example where cultural intelligence really becomes important, because it's kind of really understanding, how do I do this?
Fantastic. That's really great, Tom. Well, look, this is sounding really exciting. So what can people expect from your workshop at the pre-conference workshop at the Story Conference?
Well, I'm thinking that, from my experience of the last couple of Story conferences that I've attended, that you've organized, it seems to me that the people who tend to attend are, in fact, predominantly, there are a lot of consultants, and there are a lot of people from organizations who are interested in this whole concept around values and narratives, right? Yeah. So I think, as a consultant myself, of someone who's been in practice now for 24 years, I think that we all have our own stories that either propels us forward or hinders us. I think this will be an opportunity for us to explore our own stories, our own values. Why do we become a consultant if we are one? And how does our story actually help us become either more successful or, in fact, maybe stop us from being successful? I think that's one thing that people will get from my session. The other thing is that we'll get an opportunity to discuss and explore the topic of culture, which is something that we tend not to do, because culture is very tacit. It's our gut. We just kind of know it. But we don't talk about it. So it's like the fish that's in water, right? The fish doesn't know it's in the water until you take it out. And I find, in the same way, when we kind of engage in a conversation about culture, it really highlights for people aspects of how culture influences so much of their daily lives. And the third thing I think that people will get out of attending the session is that they will pick up perhaps 1, 2, 3 ideas or techniques, methodologies that they could use then in their own practice.
That sounds really exciting, Tom, and it's so great to talk to you this morning, and it's really great to have you part of our conference this year. So thanks, Tom. Looking forward to catching up soon.
It's a pleasure, Andrew. I look forward to it too. All the best.
Cheers.
Bye.